We're the Barbecue Hunk. You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Have a hunky day.
Let's go! We'll do it live. Okay. Well, do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
So to get that perfect barbecue, you use wood. Are you sure it's safe? Whatever. We put the lighter fluid on, strike your match, and... Oh! Should we call the fire department? That might be a good idea.
Good evening and welcome to the Really Big Barbecue Central Show. This is the show that talks about all things that are important to the world of barbecue and grilling. The show originating from Rock and Roll Hall of Fame City, Bomb City, USA, Cleveland, Ohio, the barbecue capital of the North Coast. I'm your program host, Greg Rempe. Happy to have you aboard here on your Tuesday evenings, a live fire fun and frivolity show. If you would like to get in contact with the show this evening, or you would like to follow the show during off-show hours, here's how you do all that.
You can get in touch with the show by sending an email to Greg at BBQCentralShow.com. Follow us on all the social media channels at BBQ Central Show. And be sure to subscribe to the show podcast feed on your favorite podcast platform.
Anything else you want to find out about the show can be found at the main website, the BBQCentralShow.com. And here's what's happening in case you get the newsletter for the next 2 hours. We are doing a 2025 year in review. As I stated in the newsletter, it has been a number of years since we have taken the time to take stock of the year and talk about everything that we've accomplished. Let you behind the curtain a little bit, highlight some top moments, this, that, and the other thing. I didn't spend 5 months putting this together and pulling sound clips and all of that other stuff, but I did take probably what was the better part of 35 to 40 hours over the course of last week, putting together notes and highlights and things that I wanted to talk about, and starting right from January and getting all the way through until last week's show. So before we get into the month of January 2025 and then start chasing down through the months successively, we should do the executive summary and or overall performance of the Barbecue Central show here in 2025. Key milestones and achievements. The show continues to book new guests, and that helps raise the bar in the live fire opinion making of the show, the fact telling of the show, and information / education spreading regarding the show. We also continue to raise the bar when it comes to the reporting of news items on the show. As I have said before, this show has never been about and will never be about being first with any kind of news, at least not without me being able to tell you in a 100% factual way that what I am telling you is the truth or has been reported by a reputable source or a reputable outlet. Never will you find it here on the show in a race to be first to say something. Also, it is important to make sure that words like exclusive and first do not get confused. You know me. If you're anybody that is a fan of the show over the last 5, 6, 7, 10, 15 years, you know I love an exclusive.
A Barbecue Central Show exclusive news update.
I love that. Who doesn't love an exclusive? I do. But I will never race to be first, to say, hey, you heard it here first. I'm not sure if what I'm telling you is correct or not, but I'm saying it first. I know in an era of who cares if it's accurate or not, just be first. I will refuse to throw the show's good name in the trash for such nonsense. Besides, you can only be first and then wrong so many times before people start skipping over your posts about it's first. My audience wants to hear the correct information, the factual information, and if we are in a part of the show that is going to give you hot takes, look, you're alerted well into that fact. Hey, we're going to give you some hot takes. Here's a hot take. In fact, we've done something new this year where we do hot takes, where I say, hey, hot take. Hey, we're going to give you a hot take, everybody, and what do we say? Might not be factual. Okay, take it away. Right? I mean, that's what we're doing now. So never fear that what I'm about to tell you is first stuff versus hot takes. If you want hot takes, we got hot takes. Hey, here's a hot take. I don't like New York strip steaks anymore. In fact, I think they're trash. That's a hot take. Not factual by any stretch. Factual for me, but it might not be factual for you. I will also continue my quest. No. I will continue my demand in raising the audio quality standard across all podcast platforms, all terrestrial radio platforms, all satellite radio platforms, and any other media streaming playing platform that's out there. Gang, in this day and age, there's no reason, if you're hosting a show, if you're responsible for the sound of a show, podcast, radio, or otherwise, there's no reason that your guests shouldn't have a studio quality sound to their audio. It is cheap. It is, although price increase on the Samson Q2U by $30, but still $99 for that thing is a steal, as I had mentioned last week. So for $99, let's call it $100, your guests can have studio quality sound when they're remoting in to you interviewing them. Again, cheap, easy. Every content creator should be doing that. That is the standard we should all be meeting at this point. How about part two of the executive summary and overall performance? Major challenges faced for the Barbecue Central show. I've mentioned it a few times on the sly. My biggest challenge every year is the tracking of where interests are from an audience perspective. What do you want to hear more of? What do you want to hear less of? I continue to solicit your input. Sometimes I send out surveys. Sometimes when I see people unsubscribe to the newsletter, I send them an email and go, why are you unsubscribing? I want to know what guests you want me to have on, what current guests or recurring guests you want me to kick off and why, what trends you want me to cover, find out more information on. It's an ongoing process for me and the show to make sure I'm providing you with the most compelling, informative, entertaining content possible in the genre and really across all podcast genres, because over the history of the show, especially over the last, let's call it 7 to 8 years, we have certainly put a high-level focus on the live fire stuff. I mean, that's what we do. But we've also gotten a lot of stuff as far as watches are concerned. We've talked a lot about wristwatches and pocket watches getting converted into wristwatches, all that fun stuff. Some of you are watch folks, watch guys and gals. A number of you are, actually, as you write in and tell me all about it. And then, of course, we've gotten into one of my favorite pastimes, premium hand-rolled cigars, which a number of you are also fans of that as well. So we are evolving into a lifestyle show to a very small degree, but still the lion's share focus remaining on live fire cooking. And then, of course, high-level metrics, audience growth, downloads, revenues, total historic downloads as of the day after Christmas. We currently have 3,530,072 downloads. Over 1,862 episodes currently in the queue. I still like to mention that I do not actually have a certified stat of the first 4 years of the show. I didn't start paying for Blueberry stats until 4 or 5 years into this whole thing. So those numbers that I just told you about, easy to say those numbers are bigger than what I just mentioned, but these are the numbers I can tell you 100% assurity with confidence that we have over 3.5 million downloads of the show and that we have over 1,800 episodes currently in that podcast feed. But again, 4 years of no podcast metric tracking or whatever in those first 4 years. So who knows where we'd be? Well, perhaps we'd be 1 million or so or even more downloads at that point. All right, we'll get more with the downloads from a 2025 standpoint. We'll get into gross Riva news for the show, and then we'll start digging into the months from there. Are you looking for more smoke flavor out of your pellet cooker? Of course you are. You know the thing's light on smoke. Do you want the stick burner flavor without the stick burner work? Yes, of course you do. Unless you like tending a fire all day long, your prerogative. Look no further than the Smokin' Pecan pellets. Smokin' Pecan pellets are made out of 100% pecan shells. That's right, nothing but pecan shells. No filler, no binder, no artificial flavor enhancers. I can tell you this, your meat will thank you. Your wallet might thank you too after you realize you're not paying for sawdust. Smokin' Pecan pellets are a premium cooking pellet that burns hotter, lasts longer. That means your pellet smoker will consume less pellets on the whole when you're looking at all the other pellet brands. More time to relax, less time refilling the pellet hopper. Practically a mini vacation every time you cook. Their pecan shell pellets have a robust flavor that pairs well with a variety of meats, including beef, pork, chicken, fish. I've used it on everything I've cooked over the last 3 or 4 months. Nothing that it doesn't work on, and enhances the flavor in a brilliant way on everything I've cooked. And again, not overpowering, so if you have non-pungent smoke lovers, don't be shying away from the pecan shell pellet. This is one that gives you a bit more smoke flavor, but in the best ways possible. Not dirty smoke kind of crap. Get the smoke. Burn the shells. It's a lifestyle. Promo code for Barbecue Central Show listeners. If you go to smokinpecan.com, SMOKIN, smokinpecan.com, use the promo code BBQ Central for $10 off your next purchase. Because who doesn't love a good discount, especially when it will provide you with delicious barbecue? Of course you do. Once again, it's promo code BBQ Central, all one word, for 10% off when you visit smokinpecan.com. And we are back to continue the year in review of 2025. Stick around. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Broadcasting live from the Barbecue Central Show studios in Cleveland, Ohio. You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
All right, welcome back. This portion of the show being brought to you by Fireboard. Makers of Fireboard 2, Fireboard Pro, Fireboard Spark, Fireboard Beacon, the wireless Fireboard Pulse. When you use the Fireboard app, you have total access to all devices anywhere in the world. Find out more by visiting fireboard.com or call 816-945-2232. Today, I used my Fireboard 2 with 4 wired probes on my rib roast on Christmas Day. Perfect. The thing is a banger. Jeff Cohen is in for the year in review. Hello, Jeff. You and Leonard make the year in review mention here as you settle in for the next hour and 45 minutes. All right, so we were talking about overall total historic downloads before the break. Now let's go ahead and get into the 2025 minutia. Total downloads of this year as of 12/26, over 170,000 downloads. Average monthly download somewhere in the neighborhood of 12,000 plus every month. Here on the audio side, that does not include any YouTube views or Facebook views or anything outside of what the audio podcast thing does. The Line Share audience does audio download only, so they can listen at their convenience, and that's why those numbers are so much higher than what you would see. I think the live views on YouTube, because it's not YouTube-friendly show at 2 hours plus sometimes, couple hundred over the first 30 days or whatever it is, and then it trends down considerably after that. But the audio downloads are really where it's at. Here's Dan weighing in here, and I'll try and throw your comments up. I thought Greg was crazy all year, but he was right. 2025 rapidly coming to a close. I won't doubt you in the future, Greg. Of course you won't. Don't be surprised in a week's time when somebody's starting off the new year, first Tuesday, new year, new show, with a 2026 rapidly coming to a close. Who will it be? I don't know. But it might sound a lot like somebody that you already know. Gross revenues for 2025. How about this? How many other shows are telling you what kind of cashish they're making? I'm unafraid. In fact, as Daniel Vaughn once said on the show, I am courageous. We must be courageous on the show. Gross revenues for 2025, $32,000.
Here comes the money.
Now, look.
Here comes the money.
I have, by the way, if we want to compare and contrast, 2025 revenues of $32,000. 2024 revenues, $86,000. Whoa, whoa, hey-oh.
Here comes the money.
$86,000. Look, I have some takes on the drop-off. To me, the biggest issue is being the way business in this industry is conducted by and large. Outside of some of the biggest names who do charge money, a lot of mid-tier and low-tier content creators or social media influencers or whatever you want to call them, they will partner with companies in exchange for free shit. Sauces, rubs, charcoals, grills, whatever. They're happy to generate a number of pieces of social content for whoever their partner is. And over time, brands and companies have become used to this business climate. As I have stated on many occasions on this show, while this might feel good to you, it's actually punishing the rest of us who know our value in the industry. Brands and companies will always rather do the things with people they don't actually have to pay money to, or will take their products in exchange for content. Who wouldn't? It's easy for them. And now you have a whole bunch of influencers generate a lot of this mostly crappy content for the brands and spreading it all around social media platforms. And look, let me tell you, the brands don't give a shit how great it is or how crappy it is. It's just flooding out into the interwebs and the social media platforms, and their brand is hitting you in the face over and over and over again. But from my point of view, doing business this way pulls the rest of the creator community down. I ask you this one question. If you said no, what if you instead said, I will do a partnership for the product? For those of you, they're saying, hey, I'm going to take what I can get. I'll generate pieces of content. What if you said no? What if instead you said, I'll do the partnership for the product, but you will also have to pay me money? If everyone did that, brands and companies would then have to change how they do business with us as a collective in the live fire community. You would have the opportunity as a content creator to realize your true value. Taking free things is the opposite of knowing your value. It proves you're willing to prostitute your audience for nothing. I know we can do better. And to that end, It is up to me as the show's business development manager to find the companies that agree with my vision and to build those relationships. That's where the success is going to lie from a content creator and brand relationship standpoint, but it's also where the success is going to lie from a revenue standpoint in regards to the show. I want to partner with people that buy into what I think the proper way to do business is. And it's not just taking free stuff. I've heard plenty of times, we'll give you X amount of charcoal. You got to generate this many pieces of content. Like, who's getting the better deal if you have a following that's equal to mine or better? Trust me, the brand is making out way more than you. You're getting you're getting jammed up. You're getting jobbed. You should be taking the money and the product. And again, just to be clear, there are people in the industry, influencers, who are doing that, but it's very few and far between, I'm sad to say. All right, enough about the high-level stuff. Let's go into 2025, and let's do it right now. But before we do that, we have a Would You Rather YouTube poll question of the week. Would you rather spike the punch or Xerox your butt at the office party? And would you believe it or not, we're deadlocked 50-50. 50-50. Half of you would like to roofie dem bitches. Half of you say, I'm an ass man myself. I'm not going to roofie any punch. I'm not going to spike a punch. I would rather not Xerox my butt. There's a good chance somebody's not going to find out it's me if I Xerox my butt. But assuming everybody finds out everything at the office party, I don't want to be the guy that spiked the punch. But 50% of you are against me, but 50% of you are with me, and so we'll take it like that. Here we go. Quarter number one. That starts with January of 2025. If you recall, all the way back almost a year ago, Malcolm Reed came on the show to start the year. We talked about his trip to North Dakota, where he went on a bison hunt, ended up shooting one of those majestic beasts in cold blood, and brought back what I think was like 750 pounds of then unbutchered meat. Nicely set me up a number of selections, ground, bison cuts, like steak cuts, bison steak cuts. Delicious, meaty, beefy, lean, all great stuff. Certainly appreciate it. Ate through it, no doubt about it. Was in the midst of the beginning of the health kick of 2025. Off the health kick, currently under injury over the last 6 weeks, but starting back up again next week for sure. So Malcolm Reed was hunting bison in January. Also, we met a first-time guest and Executive Vice President of Memphis in May International Festival, Kevin Grothy. And he talked about the history of Memphis in May, but perhaps more importantly, we spoke about their desire to become more involved social media-wise and to step out of the old shadows and the old ways of marketing and doing business that he felt was perhaps stymieing their growth and their visibility over the last handful of years. So first time we had ever had a board member or an executive from Memphis in May International Festival on the show, and it wouldn't be the last time. Also in January, we took a look back and celebrated the 7th anniversary of the Best Moments of the Barbecue Central Show in 10 minutes or less with our pal John Solberg, who is the executive vice president of that show. Simple math will tell you that we are mere days away from celebrating the 8th year of the Best Moments of the Barbecue Central Show. Also in January, saying the cooking guy and I argued over who would know the phrase, "Are you feeling froggy?" We also talked about his trip and cooking adventures while he was in Hawaii on vacation, shooting content as well. Also in January, David Gafford from the Barbecue Lab stopped by as a new quarterly guest, and we went in-depth on chamber vacuum sealers. Actually, I digress. I believe that was Joe Martinez. Joe, I'm sorry. I think I'm wrong. But I believe that was you that did the chamber vacuum reviews. Because you got a lot of chamber vaccines. Wasn't I supposed to get something from you that never, I've been waiting feverishly by the, it was a grinder, right? Like an 18 horsepower grinder, Joe, was that it? Doug Scheiding said that his line of rubs won an award in January. Also, Jess Pryl stopped by and announced she was going to start writing a new book. I also experienced an issue with Google Chrome that for a number of months going forward in January prevented guests from being able to connect into the show properly. Highly annoying. That brought January to a close. We moved into February. Malcolm Reed again stopped by, of course, and we talked about the impending Super Bowl, what to make, and what bets we might be making on that game. We both agreed our favorite Super Bowl and bar food in general is chicken wings of any kind. I will say this. If you think boneless wings are somehow something other than chicken renders, or how about chicken tenders? You are absolutely wrong. How about this? Hot take. Boneless wings are chicken tenders, and they're not wings, and you can suck it. Also in February, Sam the cooking guy announced that he was getting out of the restaurant business / game for good, at least for now. And we investigated what led to his decision, how long he had been mulling that over. Honestly, that one is worth going back to listen to. Lots of hard-hitting and personal takes going on with that one. One of the million reasons why Sam the cooking guy is one of the greatest guests here on this show, not only month after month, but just in general. By the way, Sam also sat in at the end of the month in February for a embedded correspondence segment. That was also great. In February, Pits and Spits announced on this show that a 3-burner gas grill and stainless steel griddle combo was coming to market, but that is yet to come to fruition, at least to my knowledge, as we get ready to close out 2025. Again, rapidly coming to a close. In February, we met first-time guest and the creator of the BBQ grill tables, Kareem Pirani. Remember Kareem? You remember those units, right? Starting somewhere around $3,000, ranging all the way up to $18,000 or so. I'm thinking about it. We should probably do a check-in with Kareem, see what's happening over at BBQ. His website was something real tricky-like, too. I think it was ibbq.com, like the letter I, ibbq.com. Somebody fact-check me on that. Great concept, but right now I would not be using anything outside, including an BBQ grill table. Did you have to sit down and use it? But still, great idea. Cigar expert, friend of the show, Mr. Jonathan from the Cigar Authorities podcast, stopped by in February. We talked about what the best cigar lighters were, what humidity is best to keep your humidor at to make your cigars healthy. We also talked about what might make you a cigar douche and more. Also this past February, the show celebrated 18 years of online streaming. Bad Byron Chisholm, a true barbecue legend, came back on the show to chop it up with me. And in successive months, someone from the Memphis in May International Festival came on the show. And this time around, it was none other than first-timer and CEO of Memphis in May, Mac Weaver. Great conversation with Mac that you should go back and listen to if you missed it. Then we move into March, the last month of Q1 here in 2025. Malcolm Reed, of course, stops by, did a full hour. We talked about competition barbecue a lot. We talked about his favorite recipes, his biggest failures in barbecue. And he's a tip everybody kind of guy, and I certainly agree with that, especially when you're getting great service. Sam the cooking guy declared that he indeed liked to eat Hormel chili from a can. No class. There was no show on the second Tuesday of the month because I was in Orlando taking a family vacation that turned out to be great. Also learned that Magic Kingdom is not...
Andrew,
it is not a place you should bring children. Don't bring your grown adult children to Magic Kingdom anymore. Avoid it. It's a waste of money. It's a waste of time. You don't want to do that. But Universal Studios is very cool, and we had a great time there. So note that. When we got back from Florida, Meat had joined me on the show. We talked about his latest book progress and We also discussed if we as humans should be cooking steak in butter or not. We had a couple of discussions about that in 2025. Wes Wright got us up to speed on Solo Stove and their colossal decline in value on the New York Stock Exchange. More to come on that later. Melissa Cookston also stopped by the show in March to talk about the upcoming Smoke Slam event, the one that goes head-to-head with Memphis and May now for the last 2 years. That, of course, taking place at Tom Lee Park. Of course, the World Junior Barbecue League. We talked about that and the championships that was being held at Smoke Slam for that. That is her passion project. We also talked about her retail store. I believe it's called Barbecue All-Stars out there in Yazoo, Mississippi. That's probably wrong, but I'm taking a shot in the dark. We also talked about how you might get on her shelves if you're a retailer of barbecue products, rubs, sauces, accessories, cookers, whatever. How do you get on her shelf? Because she's got a really big retail outlet out there in Mississippi. Also in March, Mike Lang from Another Pint Please stopped by, and we talked about how to buy the right grill or the right cooker when you are in the market to do so. We also started promoting the annual Grill Fest get-together that took place this past September, but we started mentioning it back in March because it is a great event. And then, for the first time ever on the show, we got political with it and had first-time guest, longtime friend of mine, and the sitting mayor of Wickliffe, Ohio, the city that I lived in before we moved to Willoughby, Joe Sakis. Look at me dabbling with the political elites. We also talked about his being a lifelong resident of Wickliffe when he decided to get into the civic political scene and what he's done better, or what he's done to better the city that he loves so dearly. Quick update, by the way. 2025 was a chance for re-election for Joe, and, of course, should come as no surprise that Joe won in a literal landslide. Something along the lines of 80-20. Maybe it wasn't even that close, by the way. Joe also sat in for the Embedded Correspondent segment that show in the second hour, where he mentioned right before we started doing the 100% assurity statements that he is a coffee lover and that he had it on really good authority that some of the best coffee anywhere on planet Earth is coming from cat feces. He called it cat feces coffee. I believe I did ask John Solberg, who is our resident expert on pretty much everything, especially coffee and rolling your own cigars and making your own lump charcoal and restoring grills and making shows and being a guest on a recurring monthly guest segment. I believe John did confirm that he had heard that cat feces coffee was some of the best coffee out there. I was going to pass. Anything feces is not coming through my lips, filtered or not, hot or not. I don't want it. And while you're struggling to get over if you would drink cat feces coffee, I'm still struggling over cat piss in my house. And that brings a close to quarter number one of 2025. Who's having great fun at this look back? I know I am. Why don't we talk about Primo Grills just for a moment? What do we love about ceramic cookers? We love that they're fuel efficient. We love that you can achieve low and slow temperatures for traditional barbecue meats. We love that you can get rip-roaring hot for high-temperature grilling of steaks and other thin cuts. But what's missing in the everyday lineup of ceramic cookers? The real ability to do true two-zone cooking. Two-zone cooking is very important to both professional and backyard cooks alike. It's the best way to manage a fire and cook with confidence. However, getting a two-zone fire in a round ceramic cooker is not very realistic. Why? Because it's round. And a Primo grill and their game-changing oval design, the shape gives you the ability to execute that two-zone setup that you desire. It also gives you the other ceramic grill benefits as well. Really? When you break it down, there's more than 60 different ways to configure the Primo cookers. You're only limited by your culinary imagination. All the accessories you want, more to come in 2026. Here's the bottom line. Best ceramics in the biz? Yes. Patented technology? You betcha. true two-zone cooking capabilities. You know, I just mentioned it. Only sold through dealers, so you got to visit one in person. You can find one by going to primogrill.com and using the dealer locator tab. And then once you punch in the zip code, you find out where the nearest one to use. Go visit in person, touch and feel those ovals, all you want. Then bring home the one that makes the most sense for you. primogrill.com. Follow them on the socials, Facebook and Instagram. And we will start quarter number 2 when we come back. Stick around.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rempe. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment. Now, let's get back to the Barbecue Central Show.
And we welcome you back. We thank Pit Barrel Cooker for their support this year. Also, we thank Smokin' Pecan Pellets this year. Also, we thank Fireboard. People with vision. Not cheap-ass bitch. Pit Barrel Cooker is helping with this portion of the show. The most unbelievable outdoor cooking device on the planet, currently available in 3 sizes. Go to pitbarrelcooker.com to purchase and tell them the Barbecue Central Show sent you. And look at this. Terry Heil, finance-sports guy, is in local sports show and one of the best voices out there currently. Doing it anywhere on the terrestrials, the onlines, or the satellites. Terry Heil. We call him T. Actually, I don't know if anybody calls him T, but I just decided to say that out loud. Do we call you T? Why not? If you need finance help from an expert, might I recommend new sponsor of the show, Terry Heil, finance sports guy. How about that? He'll tell you how to do your 401ks, Roth IRAs, annuities. That's all the rhymes I got. All right, let's get back into it. So we're kicking off quarter number 2 of 2025, and of course that means we're starting with the month of April. Malcolm Reed stopping by for his monthly appearance. Of course, we talked about his jerk chicken recipe, favorite jerk chicken recipe. We also talk quite a bit about how to cook steaks, how to look at steaks in the store, what kind of preparation you're doing once you get them home, what his most favorite cuts are, what rubs he uses, best ways to cook them. So if you're looking for a little high-level steak class, you might want to go back to that first show in April of 2025 where you see Malcolm Reed stopping by. Also, Matt Osmond stopped by the show in April outside of his usual embedded correspondence duties to talk about the rib contest that former embedded correspondent of Tennessee, Matt, also from Tennessee, Steve Ray, held at his store in Ooltewah, Tennessee. All of the embedded correspondents the week before and me thought that Matt would most likely win this event, but he didn't. And there was a cloud of controversy as Matt was accused of fuel cheating by some of the cooks. There were also some scuttlebutt around the cooks thinking that Matt might have been a ringer to come in and win this event. That also did not pan out and meet expectation. David Gafford from the Barbecue Lab also stopped by in April, and we recapped his time at the 2025 Barbecue Expo in New Orleans this time around. We also talked about the brand's Black Earth gas grills, and we also covered the best grills under $400, or should I say $400 and under. We also talked a bit about something that was a very hot topic for only a handful of months, the Ninja Flex Fire. David gave his hot take on that, no pun intended. Robert Moss also stopped by, and we continued what ended up being our months-long discussion on Michelin star ratings and how they were gotten and how they were basically bought Of course, we came to find out as well that Robert and my months-long discussion about Michelin star ratings, while evidently very self-indulgent and satisfying to Robert Moss and I, everybody else seemed to hate it. We ended up getting off of that. Former Tennessee embedded correspondent, the aforementioned Steve Ray, came on the show to rebut some of the items that Matt Osmond mentioned the week before about the rib event at Steve's place. As usual, Steve was direct, factual, and hilarious, which we certainly appreciate. The creator of Girls Can Grill and the secret spearhead of the World Barbecue Championship $1 million payout event made an appearance in April. We talked about her firsthand experience with what? Oh, the Ninja Flex Fire. I'm sorry, Flame. Oh, whatever. Which, again, at the time, in April, very popular. Everybody was talking about it. Everybody was posting about it. Everybody probably got a free Ninja Flex Flame and started doing social media content. Go back and listen to the open of the show. We had an issue in April where when we got to the embedded correspondence segment, only half of the embedded correspondents could connect in, as the lingering Google Chrome connection issue thing was still being worked through. So we had an instance where Google Chrome was updating versions, and the streaming software that I use, vMix, wasn't updating their end of the streaming thing fast enough. I don't know. But it was a months-long pain in the ass where some folks were able to connect in and other folks were not able to connect in. We realized at some point that it would be best to offer Firefox. Can you believe that? Firefox as a better alternative than Chrome until at least they got their shit figured out, which they ended up doing. First-time guest in April and very experienced contest promoter. Do you remember this? Jeremy Garrett of Great Events USA came on and talked about the specifics of putting on a barbecue contest or any food contest for that matter, and what his future contest domination plans were. A great segment. And if I recall, he was looking to really take over a region of the country with barbecue and cooking contests in general. Quarterly guest, Jess Pryles, announced that she had 2 new butter rubs that were hitting the market. The then popular and still popular Cowboy Butter Rub Mix, and also the Sweet Barbecue Butter Mix. I have to say, I'm a big fan of the Cowboy Butter, not only in the traditional use, so that would be, forgive me, I'm going off of memory here, but I believe it's 2 tablespoons of the Cowboy Butter Mix on a stick of butter. Mix it in, put it on your steak. Well, you know, the pros line their cutting board first with the Cowboy butter and then put the steak on it. And then if you're feeling froggy, you go ahead and put another dollop of that Cowboy butter on top. But as I've come to find out and learn, the elite Cowboy butterers are slathering the board with the Cowboy butter first, then hot steak on top of the Cowboy butter. And there you go. So not only is it great in the traditional use, I also use that as a standalone rub. Very rustic, great flavor, big fan. Use it a lot when I'm doing just ground beef for dinner. Hit it with a bunch of that Cowboy butter rub. Sans butter, just the mix, if you will. Very rustic. The barbecue butter mix is very good too. I find that the Cowboy rub, to me, a little bit more diverse in use. Just my take. And then, of course, closing out the month of April was the other half of the embedded correspondence that didn't make the show the week before. Rusty and John filled their spots. We had a great split EC segment for the month of April, and we go into May. There was no first Tuesday of shows in May. I was instead taking my first trip to where? Las Vegas. Hey-o! Gambling! Shows, hookers and drugs. No, none of that. It was for work. Most of the time spent in a convention center. I'm also actually headed back there for yet another work function at the end of January. So if you're going to be at the World of Concrete, everybody, I mean, hey, give you a shout. Hey, if you are a truck chassis person, or if you are looking for truck chassis to put your mixer bodies on, I'll be there if you're going to be at the World of Concrete. I sell truck chassis. We should partner. But there's going to be an end time where I'm going to bill you, so just know that up front. So if you are going to be World of Concrete, you should let me know. I'll be there getting it on a Tuesday night. And there'll be no show that night. I'll be getting it on a Tuesday, coming back on a Friday. World of Concrete, if you're looking for that. But there I was for the very first time, the first Tuesday in May. This time, though, I'll be staying. So where did I stay the last time? The Encore. So fairly close to the Exhibition Center, which I will be at again. That was pretty close. This time I'm staying at Harrah's, which I think is the home of Donny Osmond, if I'm not mistaken. Across the street from Caesar's Palace, if I remember correctly. And there was a great cigar lounge in there that I'll be frequenting all those nights that I'm there. The air handling there was superior. Like, if you're ever at the Monte Cristo in the Caesar's Palace, you don't smell like a cigar, not even for 1 second. I was convinced that I was going to, but no. I did not. Their air handling was superior. Just a word of the wise there if you're going to go out there and smoke cigars. Also referencing cigars, Mr. J stopped by for his first quarterly appearance, and then we talked at length about the new releases from show sponsor McAuliffe Cigars, of course. We also talked about the latest release from cigar powerhouse Perdomo, which, by the way, Perdomo Legacy? Ooh. I don't know. Jeff and Drizzy, was Perdomo Legacy or Perdomo 30th the cigar of the year this year from Cigar Authority? I forget. It was one of those Perdomos that just murdered. I feel like it was Legacy. But Jeff might jump in and correct me here in a second. Also, show favorite Robert Moss stopped by, and we diverged off the month's. Was Perdomo Legacy. Thank you, Jeff. That was right. Show favorite Robert Moss stopped by, and we diverged off the month-long topic of Michelin Star Guide. We started talking about a month-long topic of exploring the history of barbecue sides. Then, perhaps the most famous person to ever grace the show, Iron Chef, restaurant owner, book writer, and my personal pal that I could text in 1 second, and I guarantee he would text me back in 5 minutes or less. Michael Simon joined the show to talk about the release of his new outdoor, outside, live fire cookbook, which at the time was already a New York Times bestseller, yet another. Then, throwing caution all to the wind, during the second part of the interview, we were joined by Michael Simon's writing partner and one of the longest tenured restaurant critics in all the land. Dare I say the globe, but definitely all the land. My pal Doug Tratner stopped by, and we talked about Michael and Doug's relationship personally. We talked about their writing relationship and how well they work together and how these books actually come together. Because for every best-selling book that Michael Simon has had, Doug Tratner has also had a best-selling book because Doug has actually written it or taking part in writing it. So it's not a one-person winning New York Times bestseller. It's a shared award. Doug Tratner is just as big a part as that as Michael Simon is. And great to talk to those two guys together. Great segment. Highly recommend going back listening to it. Also, we talked to barbecue icon Steven Reichland in May. He stopped by to announce his new book project, Project Griddle. We also talked about his 2025 version of Barbecue University, held at the Alisal Ranch in California. That place always sounds magical. I would love to get out there and see what a barbecue university is really like. Part of me wants to just send Steven an email and say, hey, if I flew out, comp me the tickets and the stay, what do you think? Put in a good word? I don't know. But I would never do that. I mean, that's so lame. Who would do that? Holy moly. If only she is still here to gauge and get her proper due. Diva Q! What? Happy New Year to you, Danielle, as well. A year has gone by, D, and no show on the show. Not that I asked. Again, shame on me, but we have to. I mean, it's always extensive travel with Danielle, but shame on me for not continuing to chase down. But we have to have Diva Q back on the show sooner than later. But I hope you had a great Christmas, and I hope you have a fabulous New Year. Be safe tomorrow as we get into Thursday, of course, for the New Year's Day. So we talked to Steven Reichlin also in May. Also, you might recall that in May, Solo Brands delisted because of their underperforming stock. It was below $1 per share for far too long. Delisted at that time. Has since been relisted, but was delisted. And we stopped there for May now, but we'll be back. Here we go. Hey, this holiday season, light up the holidays with the Big Papa Smokers. From award-winning barbecue gift bundles to game-changing Green Mountain Grills and Mac Pellet Grills and their legendary barbecue rubs to the legendary, in its own right, Big Papa Drum Smoker. They've got the perfect gifts to fire up every backyard. And right now, you can get $10 off your next order of $50 or more when you use code REMPE at checkout. Plus, for a limited time, every order comes with a free bottle of Big Papa's Cucaracha Rub. A little heat to spice up the holidays. Visit BigPapaSmokers.com. And as you are checking out, as long as you have $50 or more in your cart, you can take $10 off immediately when you use the promo code REMPE, R-E-M-P-E, at checkout. Legendary gear, bold flavors. The only way to light up the holiday is by visiting BigPapaSmokers.com. Offer valid now until tomorrow. Time has run out. Remember when there was like 3 months of this? No, it's over. It's over, Johnny. You have until December 31st to save $10 off your next order of $50 or more when you use promo code REMPE at checkout. Let's keep this 2025 rolling. Stick around. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Continuing to produce incredibly mediocre content in an exceptionally professional way. You're listening and watching the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
And we welcome you back. Here we are doing the year in review of 2025. We've had some celebrities stop by in the instant chat. Bill Rempe 889 is it? Terry Heil, finance sports guy. Diva Q, Jeff Cohen. A lot of the regulars are also in. Let's hold on a second. Got a couple minutes yet. Quarterly guests Susie and Todd Bullock from Hey Girl Hey joined me and announced their new product. Remember this? The hot meat gloves, which I am a big fan of. Great success right out of the gate. Sold through them rapidly. Had to do a reorder. As recommended by them, size up from the normal glove size you might normally wear to ensure ease of removal. It does have a bit of a tight neck as you start to ease your hand into that. So beware of that. But I believe they were also making some edits or iterations to those gloves as well, if I remember correctly. But if you wear large gloves normally, go to extra large gloves. And really, they hit on all the hot button, no pun intended, all the hot buttons and things that they were trying to fix about that glove market. Big fan. What can I tell you? Also, want to thank Doug Scheiding for his Christmas gift to me. Hot mitts. Different from the Hey Girl Hey hot mitts. Doug says that the ones that he sent me are easily the best hot mitts. I will showcase those 2 weeks from tonight, so you can also have a look. What I found interesting about the gloves that Doug sent me is the hands are like Spock doing the greeting here. They're not hands like this. They're together like this. I mean, that is a little odd. I got to be honest, Doug. That feels a little weird, but they have a nice magnet to hold them together, and we'll put them to use next time I got to touch something hot. Also, I had my first executive physical in May through the real day job. Was told by the doctor that heads up that department and that whole executive physical deal, I was the most fit and healthy person to have ever gone through the program to date. I have my executive physical scheduled for this year. I believe it is May-ish. So I hope to keep the streak alive of being the most fit person to go back through 2 years in a row, trying to break my own record. Closing the month of May, the embedded correspondent segment this month, especially great as it spanned the whole show. 2 hours. We covered many topics to include the Barbecue Hall of Fame parting ways with their announcement on this show, as we had done for years and years prior. I still believe in my heart of hearts that Dave Anderson ruined this for me because he ran his big fat yapper 13 minutes before I was getting ready to exclusively announce on the show who was making it into the Barbecue Hall of Fame. But hey, I mean, we all make mistakes, Dave. No hard feelings. We also talked about the freshly released Texas Monthly Top 50 Barbecue Joints. And then, after all of that content, we got into a new set of 100% assurity statements. And that brought a close to the month of May. Now, can I start? Oh, can I stop? Oh, wow. Yeah. Well, stand by. I gotta find it. Here we go. Just look that in there. Aha. Much better. You've heard this song over and over. This is the right one. By the way, update on the weekly Would You Rather poll. Would you rather spike the punch or Xerox your butt at the office party? We're right back to being 50-50 again. 50-50. 50% of you want to spike the punch. I believe that there is too much culpability there, potential legal issues. I would rather Xerox my butt. I would rather not do both, but between the two, I would rather Xerox my butt. Only self-shame in that. No legalities like it could be with the spiked punch. All right, we are pointing to the second hour. Refresh your libations. We're not doing any extended, normal second hour open hot takes or anything like that. We're getting right into June because we got the rest of the year to get through. You are listening to the 2025 Barbecue Central Show's Year in Review, where we gave you download numbers from a historical sense, from a 2025 sense. We gave you revenue numbers. Who else is giving you revenue numbers? Nobody. And then I verbally lambasted all of the mid and low tier content creators for taking a lot of free shit and not demanding money as well, ruining it for the rest of us that care. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Happy to have you aboard here for the Really Big Barbecue Show.
We cook because we have to, and we grill because we want to.
Hit me!
Fine, how you doing?
You have a great show. I'm a big fan.
Boing.
So what seems to be the problem here? This man looks like he's dead, and he's in the crackle. Charbono! It's all about the Charbono, dude.
Succulent fish. What?
He ate 54 wieners.
Oh, listen, Lavernius, shake your face.
I'm shaking like a dog shit peach seeds.
We have top men working on it right now. Top men.
And just like that, we are into the second hour. This is the Barbecue Central Show, where we talk about the most important things happening in the world of live fire, except tonight, where we are doing a special show, the 2025 Year in Review. This is the second hour. So if you're not listening to this live tonight, you'll be getting it Thursday. How about that? This show originating from
Palm City, USA, Cleveland.
Let's get into June of 2025, almost halfway through the year, if you can believe it. And these are only some of the highlights of things that happened. The first show in June, as we closed out quarter two of 2025, was a pre-recorded.
Hey, what's up? This is JM, host of the Celebrity Grill podcast on iTunes, and you're listening to the Barbecue Central Radio Network. All barbecue and grilling, all the time.
Shout out to my man JM. Man, back in the day, and I am talking about way, way back in the day, back when I was in Original Studio 1, Euclid, Ohio. Euclid Heights. It was me. It was JM with Celebrity Grill. It was Huck Jr. with In the Hut. And it was Hot Sauce Weekly. Why can't I remember his name? Stand by. His name is... Oh, okay. His name is... Where's... Oh, Brian Mayer was the guy's name. We had the whole live fire podcast hot sauce market cornered back in the day. JM had a great sound. Huck had a great sound. I, of course, led the sound. Brian had a great sound. The old days. I thought JM was really going to take, out of all of us, if it wasn't going to be me breaking it, I thought that JM was going to break it potentially big. He got into video early, was doing some interviews with some other big names out there in the Florida area. Of course, there's nobody here for me to do videos with here in Cleveland. Like, nobody important lives here in Cleveland. No offense to the guys over at Mr. Brisket. But back then, I didn't know Mr. Brisket, right? Anyway, the first show in June was a pre-recorded dump into the feed because for the second time in my life, I went international to the Bahamas. We started off with Malcolm Reed talking about Memorial Day menu items. Sometimes I think Memorial Day is slept on, so Malcolm and I wanted to make sure that we armed you with the best menu ideas to try out that Memorial Day 2025. We also talked about if 275 degrees on the pit is now the new 225 degrees. Remember, barbecue steady used to be 225, but more and more and more, I'm hearing 275 as the set temperature of choice versus 225. We also talked about his take on eating camel, which he did eat. We also talked about what he thought about Heath Riles winning Memphis in May's overall grand championship. Also, what the future of Memphis in May and Smoke Slam might be. Also in June, I talked about my extreme dismay as we got back from our trip to the Bahamas the week before. Extreme dismay with men in general and their inability to keep piss from pooling around the urinals. This also led to me pitching the product Splash Hog, which somehow morphed into Piss Hog during that take. By accident. To date, I still see way more urinals without piss hogs than with them. That continues to be a shame. That continues to be a grassroots movement we as men must demand when we go into public bathrooms that have urinals. If they do not have a piss hog, I should get cards made with the Piss Hog website and say, hey, you should think about getting these to help clean up some of the cast-off piss that's happening. Your customers are standing in piss. Nobody wants that, especially in tropical locations where you might be barefoot. Don't want that. Gross. I know. Piss is sterile. All right, I'll take your word for it. Robert Moss talked about the history of my favorite barbecue side dish, banana pudding. Many of you said the banana pudding is not a side dish. I disagreed. I was shocked and almost heartbroken to find out that banana pudding was actually more of a newcomer to the barbecue side dish scene. I thought it had been around as long as barbecue had been around. To me, what goes better than with a plate of barbecue than banana pudding? Nothing. It's great as a side dish. It's great as a dessert. Who cares? It's great all by itself in 5-gallon and 10-gallon and 20-gallon buckets, especially if you're getting it from Truth Barbecue in Houston. The best banana pudding I've ever had in my life. There isn't enough to eat there. He could give you it all, and you can eat right through it. It's that good. You'll regret every minute of it later in life, but who cares right then? You won't. You will not care. So, point of note, banana pudding, newer than you think it is. Also, this past May, we met, first-timer to the show, serial inventor and creator of the grill fighter brush, Marvin Weinberger. Remember Marvin? The brush itself, or the cleaning apparatus itself, very unique, and at the time, very expensive, bordering on $80. That has since dropped. I will maintain that this is probably the best grill brush available for sale on the market to date, taking into account all other grill brushes, period, hands down. I use it all the time. I use it on a variety of different cookers. I use it on a variety of different grill grate systems. I firmly believe that barring some kind of natural disaster, which would either be an earthquake where the ground opens up and the grill fighter falls into it, closes up, and I have no way of accessing it again, or a twister comes around and takes that grill fighter brush up into the funnel and whoop, away it goes forever and ever, amen. Barring the natural disaster, I don't think I will ever need to buy another grill brush in my lifetime. And if I can remember, I will put John Solberg on the hot seat as well at the end of the month, because he also is a huge fan of the grill fighter brush. So I will say this, at its reduced cost, it's much more approachable. And I would recommend that you pick one up, especially if you're somebody that is grilling regularly 2 or 3 times a week or more. Again, regularly. You will thank me early and often. And plus, you will probably never break it. It will never wear down. It's chainmail. Classic. Good job, Marvin. Just wish that thing was more successful. We also had a chance to talk to the inventor of the grill gun and the sous vide gun, Bob Healy. Bob shook the very foundations of the sous vide reverse sear world when he proposed the following. Sear the steak first with a sous vide gun and then finishing it in the sous vide bath. Now you might be thinking to yourself, why would somebody mention that? Why would you do that? Well, Bob claimed through significant research and results of his very own, as he does cooking demos weekend in and weekend out, showing off how well the sous vide gun and the grill gun work in their own rights, respectively, that taking the raw piece of steak, setting it down on the table, firing up the sous vide gun and searing it raw, both sides, then seasoning it, putting it in your sous vide bag, taking the air out, and then dropping into your sous vide bath, claims that it significantly reduces the amount of purge that you will find in the bag versus the traditional method of sous videing, which is put it in the water bath first and then searing to finish. Wild. Shook the very foundations as well. Also in June, Pits and Spits announced the launch of their new controller on the show. Brian Zaboral also gave us an update on the state of their business at that point. And we'll hold here. Yeah, I'll save the McAuliffe segment or commercial after we get to the next run here. By the way, I mean, if we're done early, right? Happy New Year to you. But we're midway through June. So let me put some water down my throat. A lot of talking for me tonight. And then we'll get back to June. Stick around.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rempe. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment. Now, let's get back to the Barbecue Central Show.
And we are back, and we are ripping through 2025. The year in review. It's been years since we've done a year in review show. And here we are. Continuing on with June, we also learned... Now, hold on a damn minute. Yep. We also learned in June that Joey Jaws Chestnut was going to return to the Nathan's Famous Hot Dog Eating Contest in July. A story that both Steve Ray and I covered at length, as we are the most expert hosts as it relates to competitive eating. I don't think anybody else hosts anything that has to do with competitive eating. And we are the leading opinion makers on all things competitive eating. And that's a fact. Don't even bother looking it up for factuality. I don't even know if that's a word. And don't bring your smoke to be about anything else as it relates to competitive eating. Because if you don't want to hear about it, we don't really talk about it that much. And if you want to hear about it, you're hearing from the experts, period. It's actual and it's factual. Also in June, Chris Pareto from Prime Barbecue made his debut on the show. And while the segment was great, and I don't say that about every segment, but that was a great segment, 2 segments. What really hit me as we started to talk to Chris, get to know him a little bit in the beginnings. Actually, during the sound check, Chris told me he had listened to the show for a long time. And as we started peeling back the layers of how long he had actually listened to the show, it struck me. Chris Prieto might be the longest listening fan in the history of the show, period. Yes, longer than John. I'm talking about somebody who found the show when it was originally just a podcast and started listening then. Started gleaning all of the information from the competition cooks because he was getting into competition barbecue, started listening to all the other segments, started using all the other products, told me that he was falling asleep back in 2006. He was falling asleep to my podcast while he was getting ready to do barbecue competitions. He'd gotten whatever prep he had done for the night, was at scene, ready to start competing, was listening to the podcast in the trailer and falling asleep to those. Unbelievable. Chris, thank you. Which led me to believe, with almost 100% of surety, that Chris might be the longest listening fan of the show. Daniel Vaughn also stopped by in June, and we dug up the latest top 50 barbecue list that he had put out a month or so before that. I asked him if he felt any pressure about the list, which he said no. I also asked him if he had ever considered taking money to put people on the list. He immediately said he would never consider such nonsense. But we also knew that I would.
Here comes the money.
That's right. How much is it worth to you, sir?
Here comes the money.
You want the number one spot? Like, for real. If you were a barbecue restaurant in Texas, you want to make the Texas Monthly's top 50 at some point. Then you want to make the top 10. Then you want to win. How much, as a barbecue restaurant in Texas, would you be willing to pony up to buy the number one spot? I would love to know what revenue increase you see going from whatever you were kind of being known as a really good spot or potentially even a great spot to then getting the ranking from Texas Monthly as number one. What's the revenue jump? What's the overnight revenue jump? What's that first week revenue jump compared to the week before? How much is that spot worth? But beyond such nonsense as a Daniel Vaughn would never even consider it. I, on the other hand, believe there is significant money to make, and I am all about making the money. Closing June, we had another visit from prolific author Mike Grunwald. You remember Mike Grunwald? Yes. He released a book talking about how we as humans on this earth are eating the world. Great conversation. We talked about, I'm going to say it wrong, of course, regenerative grazing. We talked about carbon or methane or gas coming from cows, and are they really farting and burping that much where it's increasing the overall temperature of the earth? Are we eating our way through beef? Are lab-grown projects really something that are going to pan out? Or all things that he wrote about in his book. Which, great book. I recommend picking it up and making the read, but also going back and listening to the segment. Great back and forth between Michael and I. I should do better at having him on the show. I mean, he's definitely a thought provoker and has some really staunch takes on certain things, which I certainly appreciate, and we can back and forth on that. So make sure you check that out if you missed it. Last segment in June. Now we're getting into the last two quarters of the year, kicking off the best month of the year, that being July. Third quarter of 2025. Sam, the cooking guy, stopped by for his monthly visit, and unbeknownst to him, I regaled Sam with a live singing rendition of the Canadian national anthem in honor of Canada Day, which happened to be that specific day, that Tuesday, first Tuesday of the month in July. We then talked about a number of Canadian-specific food items, including my favorite, poutine. And I believe we mentioned my second favorite, booze-teen. Remember booze-teen? You have to go back years and years with the show. You have to go back. You have to know some of the old-time listeners and fans of the show. Sometimes you get guys that pop in, and they're here for a week or two, and then they pop out. But Jason King, I forget what the hell his YouTube handle is, Kinger487 or whatever. He was up for it. I don't even remember how we got into it. But he's like, hey, how about I make a booze-teen? Or I tasked him to make booze-teen because he was making cooking videos at the time. And so he made a poutine, but while he was making the gravy, he dropped I don't know what the correct measurement term is. I'll go use the word ass load of vodka in the poutine gravy that he made. And I think overall, he said it wasn't terrible. But booze-teen was a thing here on the show, created by Jason King, which we'll always appreciate. Also in July, we talked about the Barbecue Lab, or we talked to Barbecue Lab creator David Gathard about building an outdoor kitchen. You might recall I was shocked to hear what his kitchen quote was when a company was out there doing that quote for David and his wife. I believe it was over $100,000. So David and his wife did most of the work instead, saved a whole bunch of money. I believe he said he almost died a few times or was almost electrocuted or maybe was electrocuted, hurt himself, was sore, but probably for the cost savings, worth it. We also explored the modular outdoor cooking options that have been getting more and more popular over the last handful of years. In fact, he had outfitted his church with a modular outdoor cooking option. And these are the shelves and the refrigerators and the storage cabinets and all that stuff. All modular pieces. Grilla was a big one. Also, Charbroil, I believe, was making modular kitchen options. Both, by the way, shame on both of you for terrible marketing of those. They should be way bigger than they are. They should be way more popular. I should be getting free modular outdoor kitchens from both so I can compare and contrast, just to show you how hypocritical I am. Robert Moss showed up in July, and Robert Moss said, quote, brisket has jumped the shark. He was wrong. Leonard Aberman and Jeff Cohen were stopping by the show in July, hosts of the Baseball and Barbecue podcast, which our pal Doug Scheiding also triple hosts. Which seems to be more frequently than not frequently. He stopped. Both of those guys stopped by for a visit. We talked about our favorite baseball teams, and we also talked about some great barbecue items. Great segment with Jeff and Len. Also in July, Jess Pryles and I talked about MSG and if it's really that bad for you. And it turns out that unless you're really allergic to it, it is not.
Andrew,
it is not that bad for you. How about that? And it's actually delicious. Also in July, my middle daughter, Maddie Rempe, came on the show. We talked about her receiving her white coat in her physician's assistant program at Mount Union University in Alliance, Ohio, signifying the close of the first year, which is mostly book and classroom type stuff, and then transitioning into the clinical year, which she is currently right in the middle of now, off for Christmas, but goes back next Monday to start. Oh, what was she doing? We just talked about it the other night. Crap, I can never remember. But she's going somewhere. Some new. She just did dermatology, and now she's going to do, I don't know, whatever it is. So Maddie got her white coat in July. Also, the embedded correspondence segment happened in July. It was unique. Two of the normal guys, they weren't not able to connect in, but they both had previous business engagements. So I had to fill in with none other than Sam, the cooking guy, and also Rashid Phillip. Two all-star fill-ins. Rashid, within the minutes of that show, had a stellar take on Traeger grills. Worth the listen for that alone. And then continued to listen after Rashid picks apart Traeger and their hawking of bat scraps, basically. And then listen to how somehow, whatever Rashid said, I was catching strays from Sam, the cooking guy, for not liking Traeger. I said nothing. Nothing. Rashid did all of the shit talking or truth telling from Rashid's point of view. And somehow that boomerang back on me again. I have been incorrectly classified as a Traeger hater. I am not. But catching strays like nobody's business this year, I have to say. This was a great, example of me catching strays. Something I didn't say. I had nothing to say about whatever Rashid was talking about. Somehow I was getting the worst end of it. Closing the month of July, Amanda McAuliffe joined the show for the first time, and we talked about her career before cigars. She was in high-level entertainment, TV shows, production, movies, all that fun stuff. And we also talked about how she got into the cigar biz and what cigars they had still yet to release in 2025. A great segment, worth the listen, although those cigars have since been released. And that brought a close to July. And that brings us to August, opening the month of August. I had the usual segments with a Malcolm Reed and the Saying the Cooking Guy. However, in the second hour, Doug and Rusty came on. So if you're listening correctly, I had a Malcolm and Sam Stack first hour, and then an embedded correspondence with the other half that couldn't make it the week before, a Doug and a Rusty coming on in the second hour to answer their side of the 100% assurity statements that they missed the week before. Great segment. Happy New Year to Mr. Brisket. He's right there. He is. Could be the newest sponsor of the $10 billion Barbecue World Champion taking place in 2007. If you have any questions whatsoever, please direct all email to Christy at girlscangrill.com. She's the spearhead. Also, in August, Stephen Reichlin stopped by for a quarterly segment. We tracked the progress of the then-released Project Griddle's success. We looked into what it takes to become a New York Times bestseller, and we also talked about Labor Day menu items. Hey Grill Hey duo stopped by. That would be Todd and Susie Bullock. They came on the show to talk about their hot glove revisions, and then they also announced some new products they were going to be coming to market with still in 2025. I believe one of those, what do they call that? Beef drops? Todd's Brisket Rub. That's what I call it, but it's got a cuter name than that. Did I say cute? Grillmaster sensation, dancing sensation, Jack Arnold came back on the show. How about that? We were talking about his upcoming trip to cook at a barbecue event that he was hosting in Tampa, Florida. We also had an in-depth look at the remainder of his fall barbecue tour, which just ended last week. Beefy Sprinkles, that's what it is. Thank you, Jeff. August also brought us one of the most magical things to happen the whole year of 2025. We were introduced to what has now become the new official Barbecue Central Show theme song that was created by a fan of the show, Heath Bennett. He sent over the song and said it was done through the use of AI. I will tell you, today, as I did back then, I don't think a song has ever captured the essence of the show as this song has. It's magical. It's technically correct. And from a lyrics standpoint, right on cue. Not missing anything. The music, hair metal, 80s, all around winter. What is not to like about this song? It's beautiful. So we thank Heath Bennett for that. Last show of July was something other shows. It was another show. So I found a show that did a deep dive on the new theme song. I think the show was called Deep Dive, hosted by a man and a woman. And so this show did a deep dive on the new theme song. Still not sure where that's hosted or who's hosting it. Haven't been able to track that feed down. But they did try to break down the meaning of the show's new theme song, and they did okay at it. Cracks Country Cooking is weighing in. F80s rock. It's the worst. Crack. What are you talking about? Let's agree to disagree. Or as I say at work, let's agree that I'm right. 80s rock is great. September, getting into the ends now. September, the first Tuesday's set of shows. Pre-recorded. Why? Because I was at the very high-level business dinner with the owner of my company and the owner of the company that's one of my biggest customers. And they requested to have dinner with each other. I am the conduit that makes that happen. So, at the expense of the live show, I made it so. However, we did have a visit or new to you content with Malcolm Reed and Sam the Cooking Guy. Malcolm said that wearing Crocs is okay. It is not. And I told Sam the Cooking Guy that going forward, I would most likely never order a steak at a steakhouse restaurant anymore. Instead, opting for lamb if they have it, or if they have a chicken dish or something other than steak, because really disappointment is most likely going to reign supreme. And why would you want to go to a place where you know you're going to drop significant amount of money? Steaks are going to be $70 and up. There was a steak restaurant that I was looking at in Chicago a couple weeks ago. The majority of the steaks on the menu were at $100 and up. The cheap steak was $100. And they went up from there. We did not go there. I might want to pretend like I roll, but look, with revenues down as they are, I couldn't possibly. Fiscally irresponsible. Couldn't do it. And I would like to say this. I have done a really good job, whether I'm paying or not, going to a restaurant that is more known for steak than anything else, still opting for an alternative outside of the steak. And not been disappointed. There's a place that we go to now that has a veal marsala that's more steakhouse than not, and the veal marsala is absolutely incredible. Highly recommended at Bar Italia. Also in September, the creator of the aforementioned new Barbecue Central show's theme song, Getting the Smoke, made his debut. Heath Bennett. We talked extensively about the process of using AI. In fact, different AI platforms to ultimately generate the finished product. I believe it's like he worked over 30 or 40 hours from start to finish on that song to have an end product he was happy enough to send me. And again, awesome. If you want a copy to play on demand in your car stereo without having to search for it on the show, just email me. I'll happily send you that MP3. All right, we'll stop there in September through that first set of shows. Speaking of Amanda McAuliffe, it's time to talk to you about McAuliffe Cigars. Step into the world of McAuliffe Cigars, where each blend is a chapter in a grand tale of craftsmanship and passion. Their portfolio is a symphony of flavors, each note carefully composed to create an unforgettable Nicaraguan smoking experience. For instance, that color series, McAuliffe Black, crowned the 2023 Cigar of the Year by the Cigar Authorities podcast. The blend is a masterpiece of rich, bold flavors. You have the McAuliffe Red, a vibrant expression of flavor, capturing the spirit of adventure. You have the blue, you have the purple, and of course the green with the Modafina wrapper that's killing it. Visit the website McAuliffeCigars.com and use the locator to find a retailer nearest you. McAuliffe Cigars is spelled MICALLEF. McAuliffeCigars.com. The march to the end of 2025 continues. Stick around.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Whole packers, full racks, legs and thighs, injecting butts. If you've never heard this before, you might think you found the best XXX show ever. Let's get back to the most homoerotic host out there today, Craig Rimpey.
And we welcome you back. Cruising through the look back of 2025, or should we call it the year in review. Anthony Parlaman, the official aluminum cup supplier to the Barbecue Central show. I will often get the pork chops at a steakhouse. Anthony, I agree. I've done that many times. I know I'm at a good pork chop house when they say, and what temperature would you like those at? How would you like those done? Great. Love a good pork chop at a steak restaurant. You are right, Anthony. Robert Moss stopped by and reminded us how much people in Cincinnati detested pork ribs back in the day. Gang, this shook my soul. It hurt my heart. I continue to look with a stained eye at Cincinnati going forward after I learned what I learned. They hated pork ribs so much. They had no use for them. They couldn't think, what else could we possibly do with pork ribs? Could we cook them? Oh, no. Nonsense. Oh, wait, here's the best idea ever. Let's take all of these thousands of pounds, perhaps tens of thousands of pounds of pork ribs, and let's dump them over in that there Ohio River. Just keep dumping. How happy were whatever fish swim in the Ohio River at that point? Had to be the happiest fish ever. 10,000 pounds of pork ribs, not bones, mind you, like the full rib. Dumped right into the Ohio River. Cincinnati. The shame of a state. Detestful. Thank goodness Cincinnati stopped that, by the way. Now, look, at the risk of losing a sponsor I might never have, Cincinnati has somehow become known for being a great rib city. On the heels of dumping ribs into the Ohio River at a fevered pace back in the day. Somehow Cincinnati has become known as a city that has really good ribs. Historic ribs. Montgomery Inn ribs and sauce. Folks, I'm here to tell you with 100% assurity, Montgomery Inn is trash. Sorry. Don't fall for it. The sauce is not good. The ribs are not good. The Montgomery Inn serving their ribs is not good with their sauce is not good. Not good. If you're going to go eat in Cincinnati, go to the Precinct, which has been purchased by Jeff Ruby's, but it's Jeff Ruby's the Precinct. But I believe there is still some lineage of the Precinct in that Jeff Ruby's Precinct there in Cincinnati. Go to that instead. Don't fall for the Montgomery Inn. Or go into it with the right expectation, which this is going to be horrifically average at best. And then you might not be disappointed. Also in September, Matt Osman and Sam the Cooking Guy did a joint segment to clear up the lack of a payoff on a bet. Now, you might recall on the show that during an embedded correspondence tonight where Sam the Cooking Guy was filling in as a guest, I asked the question, 100% yes or 100% no. Sam the Cooking Guy will get to 4 million subscribers by, I forget what it was, April or May of this year. It was the worst bet known to man, and Matt made it of his own accord. All of us except Matt said, no, Sam will not get to 4 million subscribers. You could see how many subscribers he was gaining month after month over the last year. Made no sense that he was going to be able to accumulate enough subscribers the way he was trending within that period of time. Sucker's bet. Matt doubled down and then said he would pay $2,000 to Sam if Sam didn't reach it. I mean, what are we betting on here? Stupid. Nevertheless, Matt made the bet, doubled down, and to my knowledge, so here's what we know. Matt agreed that he was going to pay off. And then, letting you behind the curtain a little bit, He said, hey, I will send you the check, Sam. And Sam said, no. Instead of that, why don't you send that money into a donation? Ultimately, it was agreed upon that Matt would send it to some type of cancer charity. He would donate the money there. And then, to my knowledge, Matt has not.
Andrew,
Matt has not paid off the bet. Still. And we are days away from the end of 2025, which would make Matt the longest running welcher on the show. He said, again, that he would do it by the end of the year. Now, don't ask me what happens to Matt if time runs out and that $2,000 hasn't been donated verifiably to some real charity that is trying to benefit the cure of cancer. So stay tuned on that. But my math isn't very good, but he's got about 1 day to rectify that. Time will tell. Also in September, Mike Lang announced his second book, partnering with NASCAR, no less. I believe it was called NASCAR Race Day Eats. Good for you, Mike. Daniel Vaughn joined the show, was voted the most influential person on the globe when it came to barbecue by that show, the Underseasoned Barbecue Podcast. For those of you wondering where I ranked, 143rd, if you're keeping score. Also in September, as we have done each year since 2018, we put in a new Barbecue Central Show's Guest Hall of Fame class. This year it was Travis Clark, Melissa Cookston, Wes Wright, Emily Detweiler, and Andy Husbands. All well-deserved, all fought for. And I believe we had 2 and maybe 3 unanimous votes. I think Travis was unanimous. I believe Wes Wright was a unanimous. Ooh, was it more than that? I think it was at least 2 or 3. I'd have to go back to my handwritten notes as we were doing it. But definitely 1, I think definitely 2, maybe 3. But a great class and a well-deserving class. Closing out April, Amanda McAuliffe from McAuliffe Cigars stopped by the show once again. We talked about now the launch of McAuliffe Green with the Matafina wrapper, which after smoking a number of them is one of my favorite McAuliffe cigars. And that is true across the McAuliffe line. In fact, I'm getting ready to order more McAuliffe cigars here shortly, and I believe I will be looking to purchase a bundle of McAuliffe Green cigars in Robusto, maybe Toro, see what that's like. But the green is a banger. A qualified banger from a cigar and from a price point. You can't beat it. And we also kicked off the Guest Hall of Fame origin stories with Travis Clark, which many of you thought was an outstanding and very inspiring interview. A lot of you saying that Travis is the hardest working person that you know. And really, to me, Travis is a testament to the phrase, the harder I work, the luckier I get. I've never been a big subscriber to luck. You got there because you're lucky, or you're lucky that you did this, you're lucky you did that. I think you work hard and then you reap the reward. Hence the saying, the harder I work, the luckier I get. I believe that. And now we're getting into quarter 4. Let's go! Kicking off October this year was something that has never happened. A full show of origin stories. Both newly enshrined Hall of Famers Emily Detweiler and Andy Husbands appeared on this show, October 7th. Emily Detweiler appeared hour number 1, and Andy Husbands appeared hour number 2. I might have that reversed. Both had very different stories. Both were extremely entertaining to listen to, inspiring, engaging, worth the re-listen or the listen for the first time if you missed it initially. If you're just tuning into the show right now and you're like, holy crap, this guy's got a guest Hall of Fame. Yeah, we got a guest Hall of Fame. We put 5 new people in every September. on that fourth Tuesday. And the way you can become eligible for being in the Guest Hall of Fame is you have to be a guest just once. So plenty of eligible people over the 18 years of doing this show. Also in October, Robert Moss released the Southern Living Magazine's Top 50 Barbecue Joints. We discussed how he arrived at the list, what the common places were between his list and the Texas Monthly's Top 50 list. Robert also mentioned that he was resurrecting the Q sheet back in October, which has been a tremendous gift to all of us who enjoyed reading the first version. This one might actually be better. I like the structure. It's done through Substack. I'm going to use the term Substack like I know what the hell I'm talking about, but I do not know what I'm talking about when I say Substack. But I do know it's done through Substack. So if you are not subscribed to Robert Moss's Q sheet, I highly suggest you go to his website, robertfmoss.com, and there should be a link somewhere to sign up for that, the Q sheet. I think you'll like it. Melissa Cookston stopped by for a second time in 2025, and we laid down her origin story, knocking 4 of the 5 down in just a few short weeks. So Travis Clark, then we had a whole show of origin stories, and then we had Melissa Cookston right after we did the whole show of origin stories the week before. Incredible origin story. Free sharing. Went through what it was like coming up as a kid, dealing with the brother, getting to where she is today, what she's still looking to accomplish in her career. Will she ever get back into competition barbecue? What it was like being an elite competition cook in a mostly land filled with guys. How she dealt with that. Very inspiring. Very great listen. You should go back and listen to that if you missed it as well. Wes Wright rounded out the origin stories in October. By the way, as I had mentioned in October, as we got through Wes Wright's origin story, the fastest we had ever put a class in and then turned around all of their origin stories without question. Wes also a great story to tell, brought a very successful Hall of Fame class to a close there in 2025. Also in October, Jess Pryles made her last appearance of the year. We talked about what the real internal temperatures of beef are supposed to be, which correspond with the rare, medium, medium well, so on. So she gave us those temperatures. She also gave us an update on her new book, and we also talked at length about lamb. And this is a recurring 2025 segment as I was putting the year in review together. While 2025, cooking-wise, was the year of primo, summer of primo, 2025 was also the consumption of lamb for me. Easily, 2025, the most lamb in the most variety of different ways and cuts and whatever. I have had lamb in my entire life, and I'm not mad about it. In fact, I'm looking to up the ante in 2026. And the last show of October, at least in the first hour, a total disaster. Hours before I went live, both guests backed out unannounced, so I had to carry the ball solo for the first hour. We also tried a new call-in feature where I sent a V-Link connection out in the YouTube chat and had folks use it to do a call-in and talk about live fire with me. We had a small handful, I believe 2 or 3 folks called in. I believe we had a Jeff sighting and an Anthony Parloman sighting and somebody else. Maybe a Johnny Maggs was in there as well. That was fun. We might do that in 2026 a little bit more. And as always, we closed the month with a new rendition of the 100% Assurity statements with the embedded correspondence. Always fun. So that brought a close to October. We have 2 months left. My timing couldn't be perfecter. Results of the poll question. Currently, would you rather would you rather spike the punch or Xerox your butt at the office party? Now, 53% of you are saying you'd rather spike the punch. Right? Let's get right back to it. Let's close the last 2 months and draw a close to the look back of 2025. Stick around, be right back.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Let's get back to a guy who has more experience giving you his opinion than he actually has cooking. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
All right, we are heading for home in the year in review of 2025. November led with Malcolm Reed as usual. We talked a lot about turkey preparation. Talked a lot about the current football situation and much more. Also in November, creator of the World Food Championships, Mike McLeod, stopped by, and we talked about the 2025 version of the World Food Championships. Mike also agreed that sending me an invite to judge World Food Championships through LinkedIn was not a great idea in hindsight. No shit. Mike also mentioned that there was going to be a big announcement in January of 2026 in the world of barbecue. Here's what I'm predicting. Some kind of return back to a Sam's Club barbecue tour. Some of you might recall that from back in the day. Everybody loved it. There was a lot of shitting on it while it was happening because that's what a lot of competitive barbecuers like to do. When they were in the midst of great times and greatness, they had no problem shitting on everything, and then it was yanked away, and they're like, oh, but that was the best thing ever. If you want to wonder why a lot of competition barbecue went down the shitter, look back to that. Look back to social media. Look back to a couple of loudmouthers who ruined it for a lot of other people. But there was also a lot of sour grapes on a lot of bitches around there. Social media was not the friend of competition barbecue in the end. But hey, live and learn. Let's hope if it ever spikes back up again, people realize that they should be utilizing social media for good promotion and not bitching and moaning so the people investing their money can see the bitching and the moaning. Robert Moss talked about barbecue deodorant. Let me back up just for a second. My guess, a return to some type of Sam's Club barbecue tour, but I don't know that for sure. So don't quote me on it. I'm just saying that. My guess. Robert Moss talked about, actually, should I do this? Hot take alert. Hey, my guess in 2026, a return to some type of Sam's Club barbecue tour. Yeah. Robert Moss talked about barbecue deodorant. I also mentioned, while we were on the line with Robert Moss, the worst barbecue product ever created by the guys at Pork Barrel Barbecue. Q Cologne. It was horrible. It was the worst. The worst. I brought it into work one time when I was working at AT&T. We had to wear those stupid sweater vests. And I sprayed it on my person, got behind the cash wrap, and the people that were working on either side of me, they didn't know whether they wanted to shit or go blind. It was the worst. They had to be professional. Of course, I'm also offending the customers. Ultimately, was told I was have to go home and change, and that I was going to get docked for that. But I had to prove a point to the guys at Pork Barrel Barbecue. This was terrible and horrible, and it was both. Also in November, Barbecue Central Show's cigar expert, Mr. J, stopped by, and we talked about the best cigar gifts to buy for that premium cigar smoker in your life. We discussed the best lighters, cutters, and then went down the line of cigars to buy, costs, what should make the cut, what shouldn't. A great segment. I think that's great evergreen content also because a lot of the cigars that he mentioned as far as gifts to buy are probably going to be around for a long time. So if you got a birthday coming up or an anniversary or something along those lines, you want to get ahead of next holiday season, go back and listen to the brands that he mentions. Steven Reichland made his last appearance in 2025 in November. We discussed his favorite ways to do Thanksgiving. We also talked about some great holiday gifts to buy for your live fire lover. I also made the prediction. Wait a second. Okay. Hold on, pal. We're not there yet. I got minutes left. Circling back to Stephen Reichling's last visit. As we were talking about, I surmised the following hot take. Hey! With Stephen Reichling's next 2 books coming out and the subject matter they're covering, this could mean the beginning of the last of anything new that we see coming from Stephen Reichling. How about that? Hot take. Wes Wright and I talked about artificial intelligence. We talked about it in depth. We talked about it especially as it concerns a product called Sear Grills and what the market viability for that product actually is. Honestly, their communication as a company, infrequent, their follow-ups, a little worse than that. So my hope for this to be a success remains tempered at best. Remember, it's $6,000 a unit. Not sure what kind of viability it actually has in the market anyway. In what is usually a joint visit from Todd and Susie Bullock from Hey Grill Hey, we had a singular spot with Todd Bullock. Susie wasn't available otherwise, so I used that time to do an impromptu origin story on Todd to get his perspective on the rise and ultimate domination of Hey Grill Hey. A great segment that I appreciated Todd for doing. Also, Rashid Phillips made another appearance in November. We talked extensively about the rise in popularity, or at least the interest in open fire cooking. He broke down the open fire meetup in Hondo, Texas, and he also mentioned how Memphis in May was putting on an event in 2026 that was also going to showcase this cooking style. Owl's Nest Barbecue Supply owner Steve Ray came back on in November and brought a new theme song of his very own about him and his store or show. We went head-to-head in a theme song battle at which one was the best, both using AI. And a surprise to no one, getting the smoke one handily, although Steve Song, the mayor of Owltown, was actually a good one. Closing November, the Embedded Correspondents had a segment, but John, nowhere to be found. I begged everyone to answer yes to the everyday carry knife statement when I re-asked it in December. John was going to be a wild card in December. I told everyone I was going to use it no matter what. Did I hold myself true? And then closing out this month, starting off, we covered the open fire cooking more, or that topic more, with the foremost authority on it, at least here in the States. Al Fragoni stopped by the show. We talked about the genesis of the open fire meetup. We talked about battling the growth through COVID and getting to where it is today. He appeared to have invited me to go down to the 2026 event in November, but we'll see about that. Al also talked about how the partnership with Memphis in May came about. We talked about what a coup it was to get another contest in during the same time as the World Championship Pork Cookers Contest, if that's what it's called. We speculated if at some point in the future the winner of the Open Fire Challenge could also have a shot at winning overall grand championship against pork and shoulder and ribs, or hog, shoulder, and ribs. Time will tell. Sam, the cooking guy, said that the New York strip steak is trash, and I agreed. Sam also said that he would give up his airline seat if asked, even if he paid money to upgrade. I disagreed with that. Our pal Meathead stopped by one last time in 2025, did an extensive explaining on misunderstood terms and how social influencers are spreading misinformation and sometimes dangerous information because they think they know what is safe and what isn't. But Meathead said they are almost always incorrect. And what we should learn, or what we should lean to, and that we should lean to science to understand what is safe and what isn't. He also explained the terms minimally processed, processed, and ultra-processed foods, and what risks those come with. Very interesting stuff. Meathead also mentioned that he doesn't care about his book stats as far as the second one, and if it'll be any bigger or not as big of a hit as the first one. He doesn't care about that. Robert Moss stopped by and explained Florida, its old style of barbecue, and what the new style of barbecue is. He also mentioned to me that restaurants that put sauce on their barbecue does not mean that their meat is bad and that they're trying to hide sauce. I disagree.
Get that big stuff out of here.
Ted Conrad from Fireboard also stopped by for a visit. We talked about the state of their business, what new products they might be bringing to market in 2026. We talked about their wireless thermometer, the wireless pulse, and where the expectations should lie when a customer purchases one. They've also had some revamping on that. I think I am not a huge fan of wireless, as I had mentioned, opting for the Fireboard wired option for my rib roast for Christmas. I still think wireless is inconsistent at best. Also, this month, I took a weekend trip to Chicago to do all the Christmas pop-up bars for the second year in a row. Great time. I also talked about how servers should not be shooting themselves in the foot by mentioning how much weight is in a tomahawk steak, which is inedible because of the bone, thusly a waste of money. We also found out that our server at the table we were sitting at that night, a fan of the show, and he wrote in last week to talk about my rant. That was wild and weird. Chris Young from Combustion Inc. made an appearance, talked about his products and where he sees the future releases down the road. He said he has a schedule of products to be laid out over the next 3 years or so, all in the same ecosystem working together. I only own the big grill gauge at this moment, and given the weather at the moment, won't be using that in the near future. It's going to be recklessly cold. But it's all ready, and it's all ready to go no matter what. And closing out the year with the embedded correspondence, we did a segment in the first hour, and then the full second hour talked about trends, good or bad. We also ran through a new list of 100% surety statements. And then, out of nowhere, the line that brought the whole show to a screeching halt, while talking about his disdain for Slot Dog, John Solberg said something that I will never repeat on the show again. Vile, repugnant, profane, hilarious. You can go back, check it out on the audio replay or the video replay. I actually recommend both. But you will never hear me say that phrase on this show as far as I am hosting it. Never. And I don't think that phrase has ever been used prior to John spewing it last week. It's one of one. It will never be said by me. I doubt it will be said by guests. Other than John, I don't know if hearing John say it will now open the floodgates to that. I doubt it. But John said it. And guess what? At 11:03, December 30th of 2025, that is your year in review. Were there more things that happened? Yes. Did the highlights pull me through 2+ hours? Yes. So that's why I can't go over every single thing. But to me, those were the highlights. So hopefully you enjoyed it. Now, before we get out of here, everybody be careful tomorrow. I want to see everybody in 2 weeks' time. There's going to be new to you content in the feed next week. Next Tuesday through the weekend, we go down to Houston for scans for my wife down at MD Anderson. That is part of the routine, part of the process that we go down, hopefully with clear scans coming on Wednesday next week. Scan times bump out to every 4 months instead of every 3 months. So we head down to MD Anderson next week. So we'll be pre-recording Malcolm Reed and Sam the Cooking Guy. You will get them on Wednesday and Thursday as usual. Podcast drops in the feed. Most importantly, as we get ready to close down 2025, I want to thank everybody that watches live, consistently. I want to thank everybody that watches live inconsistently. I want to thank everybody that stopped in on this show out of nowhere tonight just because you saw it live somewhere on YouTube or on Facebook and you decided to pop in for 5 seconds and even check it out. I thank everybody that subscribes to the audio podcast feed. You're the biggest audience. You're not the best audience, but you're certainly the biggest audience. And I appreciate the fact that you take the time whenever you do it to take in and consume the show's content. I hope you're still getting entertainment, information, and reporting out of it because that's my overarching goal. Or is it overarching? That's my main goal for this show is to provide you with information, education, and entertainment all at the same time. And lastly, I want to thank all of the sponsors of the show. Everybody that's decided this is a great vehicle to partner with. This is a great way to get the word out about your product or service within the industry. It was a rough year in 2025 from a revenue standpoint, but the show has never always been about, if it was always about money, I wouldn't be talking about revenue numbers with you. I'm here to just talk about the money that this show generates from one year to the next, and we want, as I had said before, from the best year ever to the worst year ever. This was literally the worst year ever for revenue. But as we look around, we know why, and I talked about a little bit of that in the first hour. But money is not first and foremost in this show. That being said, if you are a business that wants to partner with the show, I don't soak people. You know, it's $1,000 a month. It might be a little bit more than that, depending on what you want to do. But many other people charge way more than that for what you get. So if you want to partner, you know somebody that should partner, send them my way, make the intro email, whatever you want to do. Happy to have conversations with people that are interested and that see the vision of partnering with this show and the value that it can bring. And I'm happy to also bring that across in a meeting as well. So there we go. 2025 rapidly coming to a close. Literally 24 hours away from a new year. 25 hours away from a new year. Is that right? Prior to watching the ball drop, we'll be taking in the Cleveland Cavaliers against the Phoenix Sun in the corporate Peterbilt suite. Happy New Year. 3:30 tip-off. You know people work. Anyway, prepare for the pre-recorded content next week. I will see you in 2 weeks' time for a live show, the first live show of 2026. So how do I always leave you? September 11th, 2001. I will never forget. And until 2 weeks' time, this is your program host and proud U.S. American Greg Reppy saying, Shabon! Shabon!
This is Jeff Stone of Grandpa's Pride Barbecue from the Panhandle of Florida, and you are listening to the Barbecue Central Show.